No, I did not. There it is. I was going to say, I didn't get that magical recording.
I just wanted to give the disclaimer first.
Yeah. Good.
Okay. I've got way too many toolbars by the way. Okay. All right. So welcome to tonight's dollars and cents financial workshop. Excuse me. Still have COVID cough. All right. Where did my cursor go? Why does my cursor always keep disappearing? All right, here it is. Okay. So today's workshop will cover records you treasurers must keep, how to develop and maintain your budget, different types of reporting, your transaction management forms, the workman's compensation form, and some common financial situations that you might find yourself in. All right, this will get annoying. Now we will be having 2 virtual financial filing workshops, taxes anyway. One on October 9th and one on October 13th.
13th is not the correct date.
Oh, I'm sorry. What do we change it to?
We changed it to the 19th.
That's right. I'm sorry.
19th or 16th. Oh.
And
it's on our website.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't update this from last night, so yeah, or a couple nights ago. But we will be having 2 workshops specifically about filing taxes and the Attorney General forms. So this particular workshop will not be going into any great detail, and that will be touching on it, but no, we're not going to go into detail on how to fill out those forms. So we'll be watching for the invitation to those workshops soon. If your PTA is delinquent, or if you have any questions, if you're not delinquent and you just have questions on how to fill out your tax forms, Peggy, who is my helping me out here tonight, she is our tax assistant and she is more than happy to help you.
If I can't answer it, I know where to find the answers.
So this is a list of records that your treasurer should have on hand. Things like copies of audit reports, your budget, bylaws, your certificate of insurance, your insurance guide, IRS letter of determination, copies of tax filings, lists of any passwords or any logins that you have, financial reports, your monthly financial reports. There's another thing in here that I don't think is on the list. Copies of minutes, meeting minutes should also be in your treasure book, because the minutes show record that different expenses have been voted upon. So your treasurer needs to know that things have been voted upon so that the treasurer can write the check or knows that that expense has been approved.
And the auditor will ask for those anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So developing a budget. So you first have to understand the goals and programs for the upcoming year, and you do that. You can do that different ways. You can send out a survey to your members. You can ask your principal for input. You can ask teachers for input. Have people submit their wish lists, and then have a budget committee and look at all this input from all these different sources and prioritize and say, okay, this is the amount of money that we have presently in our bank account. These are the fundraisers we would like to have. These are the goals for each of these fundraisers as far as how much money you want to make. And so knowing our goals and knowing what we actually have in the bank, what can we realistically do this year? And then you develop your budget from that. It's also helpful to look at past budgets. Obviously the last 2 years are probably not good budgets to look at because you're in COVID. So maybe look, if you have records back that far, look at your 2018 budget or your 2019 budget and see what you spent in those years, and use that as a guide as well. So there's different sources that you can look at. And there are some recommended budget line items that you should have. A like carryover funds. So that's the amount you want to have set aside so that next year starts with some money in the bank. A donations line item, a fundraiser income. You can make that as detailed as you want. You can just call it fundraiser in general, or you can line item each fundraiser out. Like I don't know, XYZ fundraiser, we hope to make $1,000. ABC fundraiser, we hope to make $700. STP fundraiser, we hope to make $500. So you can make it as detailed as you want, or you can just have it at a high level. It's up to you how you want it, how detailed and how crazy you want to make yourself. And then your fundraiser expenses, it should match the way your fundraiser income is. So if it's a high level fundraiser income, if all of them are lumped into one line item, then have your fundraiser expenses also lumped into one line item. It might be helpful just for future planning, particularly for fundraisers that you do every year, to have them separately listed. That way you know exactly how much each fundraiser, the net income is for each fundraiser, because you have gross income that will be listed in the fundraiser income line. Say for XYZ fundraiser, you made $1,000, but you had $300 worth of expenses for XYZ fundraiser. So that means your net profit for the XYZ fundraiser is $700. So that might help you be able to see the performance of that fundraiser, if it's really worth all the effort that you put into it. Then there's an insurance expense line item, because we have to pay insurance. And the 2023 premium is $272. And it is to be sent to AIM Insurance this year, not to 3rd District as has been in years past. And instructions will be forthcoming on how to do that.
Yep.
Membership per capita, which is not funds not belonging to unit. So say your dues are $10. You have to send 5 of that to 3rd District so that we can pay the other levels of PTA on your behalf. So of that $10 that you charge your members to join your PTA, 5 of that dollar does not belong to your PTA. $5 does belong, but $5 doesn't. So that $5 is categorized as funds not belonging to your unit. So that should be a separate line item. And then likewise, there should be a membership dues expense for funds not belonging to unit, and those $2 amounts your income, and your expense should match, because the money you're setting aside out of your dues is what you write a check to us for. So those $2 amounts should match. So they should zero each other out. And then any membership drives expenses, such as if you buy envelopes or if you buy banners or signs or stickers or have printing done or whatever to get your members excited about joining your PTA. There should be a membership drive expense. And then you have your general PTA operations, such as postage, because you have to mail things into us, like your dues or copies of forms, or if you don't have the ability to scan and email them to us, you have to mail them to us. So, and then maybe mailing envelopes. Some PTAs reimburse their officers for ink to print reports on their personal printers at home. That really is on a case-by-case basis. Some PTAs are allowed to use the school's printers, so that's not an issue, but some are not. So the officers have to do all the printing. It's really up to you and your members if you want to reimburse officers on that. And then there's your staff, volunteer, teacher appreciation expenses, any appreciation activities or recognition activities that you have planned, you need a line item for that. Also training and workshops. So if we were charging a fee tonight to come to this training, that is a PTA expense, and that should not come out of your pocket. That should come out of your PTA's account. So that the cost for training and workshops should be in your budget, as well as convention. We're having convention. The state PTA convention next year will be in Sacramento. So if we hope that everybody could go, or a lot of people could go to convention, since it's in our backyard, there's a ton of training opportunities there. So I hope you can set aside some money to go to convention next year. And then unallocated reserve, that's just a bucket. That's like miscellaneous. That's where you can fund things that come up during the school year that you haven't budgeted for. Like the principal comes and says, "Oh, we need new rubber balls for the playground," and because our rubber balls have all rotted out in the closet over the summer. And you look at your budget, well, we haven't budgeted for playground equipment. So you vote to do that, and then that can come out of your unallocated reserve until you can revise your budget and insert a line item for playground equipment. So budget approval. In the spring, the board develops a small contingency budget and presents it to the current executive board and the members for adoption at the last association meeting of the year. The association approves the release of any funds required prior to the next association meeting in the fall. So this allows the board elect the ability to cover routine summer and early fall expenses, like buying stuff for your membership drives, back to school nights, and things like that. Things that you do before your first association meeting in the fall. Because you should not be spending money without an approved budget of some kind. And you also should not be spending money unless the funds in that approved budget have been released. And if your election occurs at the final association meeting of the school year, you can call a special meeting just to approve the contingency budget. So it'd be like a 5-minute meeting. And then the full year budget, which is basically you are revising the contingency budget, is presented to and voted upon by the executive board and then recommended for adoption at the first association meeting in the fall. And then that's where your whole vision for the year is funded. But keep in mind, adoption of the budget does not necessarily say give you the green light to go and spend money. Okay, so I just briefly talked about this already. The contingency budget is revised and approved by the executive board before the fall meeting, and to add the additional items that you need to run your PTA for the whole year. And it is also recommended that the treasurer provide the executive board with a budget to actual comparison report monthly or at least quarterly, just to see if you're overspending a budget line item or if you're way underspending. So maybe you need to make some adjustments to your budget in January.
Okay, Cheryl, we have
Yeah.
a question.
Sure.
It says, are the general public PTA members invited to the monthly PTA meetings, or are they quarterly instead? And the monthly PTA meetings are geared for the executive board. That kind of depends on your bylaws.
Yeah, it really does depend on your bylaws. Your board meetings are closed to the public. Only the executive board members can attend your executive board meetings. Now, outsiders can attend on invitation if they have a presentation that they need to make, or maybe your board is asking somebody from the maybe asking a school district person to come give a presentation because maybe your board is considering spending some money on something and want to get that person's input, or maybe a fundraising company would like to do a fundraiser for you, but you want to get more information about the company, so you invite that representative to the board meeting to give a presentation. The president will that is allowed. The president grants what's called a courtesy seat to non-board members to give their presentation. And then once the presentation is finished and questions are answered, then that person has to leave. They can't stay for the whole meeting.
You say thank you and goodbye.
Yeah, exactly. Now with respect to the other meeting, the association meetings are open to the public. Anybody can come. However, only PTA members may vote. So, and depending on what your bylaws say, if your association meetings are monthly, or you only have three meetings a year or 4 meetings a year, just whatever your bylaws say. It really is whatever your bylaws say. But the general public is welcome to attend your association meetings. They just cannot vote. Only members can vote.
Does that answer your question, Wendy? Yes, you can unmute.
Or you can put
She said
thumbs
yes.
up or.
She said, yeah.
Okay, good. All right.
Sorry, yes, thank you so much. I have 2 kids in the car, so
Oh.
I'm muting myself.
No problem.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay.
No problem. So, and then your board should review the budget. Looking at the your budget to actual comparison, and if you have any emergency expenses that come up that you need to use your unallocated reserve for, you should look at your budget toward the end of the year and say, should we be making some adjustments? And then at your association meeting, which is usually, if you don't have monthly meetings, which many PTAs have monthly meetings, most of the PTAs that only have 3 to 4 meetings a year, a school year, they have an association meeting either in January or February timeframe. So at that meeting, that's where you will present your revised budget to your members to adopt. And it must be
The vote has got to be a 2/3 vote.
yeah. Usually, more often than not, it'll be nobody will be have a problem with the change, but a few people might. But you do need at least 2/3 of your members. So I'm really stressing that word, members, have to be in favor of the change. And here's a sample. This is kind of an outdated sample, but of a budget.
Boilerplate.
Yeah, but this is, you make it whatever works for you. I mean, it has to make sense to you because you're the one. Your board is your treasurer, and you're the guys that are managing the money. So you have to set up your budget what makes sense to you. So this is just a suggestion, purely a suggestion. There's no rules as far as what has to go into a budget. It's whatever makes it easier for you guys to manage and what makes sense to you. So earlier I mentioned about the releasing of funds mechanism. This is another, it's a check and balance. It's a way to protect the flow of money, control the flow of money, if you will. So if you have a calendar, which you should, that was approved at your first association meeting, you know when your events are going to be, your programs, your family nights, your assemblies that the PTA is funding, all your family nights and your fundraisers. You should have a pretty good idea when you're going to do what throughout the year, because you have it in your budget. If you have it in your budget, you should have a good idea of when you're going to be actually doing those activities. So you should look at your calendar and compare it to when your association meetings are. And then very strategically ask to have the money released for activities between your association meetings. So if you know you're going to have a harvest carnival in October and your association meeting is in early September, and your next association meeting isn't until January, then you better get those funds released at your September meeting, because if you wait to your January meeting, it's too late. So ask that the funds for whatever amount you've got budgeted for your harvest carnival, say we need to release these, we would like to request to release the $500 that we have budgeted for the harvest carnival, so we can start buying stuff to put on the harvest carnival.
So Cheryl,
Yes.
can the treasurer ask for those funds to be released? Can they make that motion?
I believe so. I don't see why not.
I don't know why they wouldn't be able to. I mean, they can make motions, so
Right.
I was just kind of going, who's going to be doing this?
Yeah. Now, if you see an event, now this is where planning comes really into play. If you have an event early next year, like if you have an event in January, for instance, and you know you're going to have you need some lead time to order supplies for it, and but you know you've got a association meeting also in January, but it's like maybe the week before your event, and you know you're going to need more than a week's worth of time to order all the stuff for that January event, then go ahead and include that January event, whatever you've got budget for that January event, also in your release of funds request at your September meeting. Because you want to give yourself enough time to buy stuff, right? Now, ideally, it is best if you release, if you release the money as it becomes closer to the, or as the event is coming up between association meetings, and it is okay if your association just wants to release all the funds for everything on your, in your entire budget. Particularly if your budget is very small, like $2,000 or less, but it's still not recommended. But there's no like hard and fast rule or law saying you absolutely cannot release all the money all at the same time. This is just a way to protect the flow of money in your PTA. It's just a pressure valve on your pressure cooker, basically. So treasury report. Your treasury report should include your beginning and ending balance for the bank period prior to the meeting, a list of deposits and where the money came from. For example, if it's membership money or fundraisers or donations or whatever, a list of the checks and payments, and a brief description of what that expense is about. And then also, then total that up. You see, total your income, you total your expenses. Then you have a list of the expenses that are to be quote unquote ratified, which is usually the same list as number 3. It's just without the descriptions because you already described it up above, so there's no point in repeating it. And then when you vote, you say, I vote to, when somebody makes a motion to ratify, I vote to ratify check numbers 5,000 to 5,004 and for $827. Yep. And it's done. Now, if you have a break-in check, so if you have check number 5,000 to 5,001, and then there's a break because maybe a check hasn't cleared yet, and then you got check 505, then you have to say 501 to 503 and check 505. So you have to separate it out. You have to acknowledge that there's a gap in the checks. And then treasury reports for your monthly board meetings must be reviewed at the next board meeting. Treasury reports for association meetings are cumulative of all transactions between association meetings. So if your association meets monthly, then basically it'll be the same treasury report as your executive board because your executive board also meets monthly. But if your association meetings meet only 3 to 4 times a year, then you have to add up all those monthly treasury reports data together and report them as a longer list of transactions because you need to make sure you report everything that's happened since the last association meeting. And if your treasurer is unable to attend a board meeting or an association meeting, there still has to be a treasury report provided. Give it to the president, give it to another officer, but that does not excuse if your treasurer cannot be there, that does not excuse the treasurer from preparing your report. You still need to have financials reported by somebody, but it doesn't always have to be just the treasurer that does it. I can't tell you how many times I've heard, well, our treasurer hasn't been able to make it to the meeting, so we haven't had treasurer reports in 5 months. Well, how do you know how much money you got? Well, we really don't know how much money we got. Well, that's a problem, huh? So, yeah. And here's another outdated example of a treasury report, but you can see here it's got the starting balance. It's got the list of deposits, the funds not belonging to unit income, which is the membership, and the $5 of membership that is, that goes to third district. Then it's got the expenses, and you see it's got checks and everything there. Maybe if you have a savings account, you know, if you transfer money to a savings account, you have to list those. Also list voided checks. And then your total expenses, and that's it. Now,
Okay, so Gabriel wants to know,
yeah.
what's the purpose of a savings account?
Well, there
What's a savings account, right, Gabriel?
yeah, it does not happen very often. There are a few PTAs that are located in very affluent communities that do very, very well in their fundraising. They like separating out. They don't like keeping a lot of money in their checking account. They'd rather have some money set aside earning interest, so they can make even more money, I guess. Some PTAs have there's special circumstances, and we can take this offline. Although it doesn't sound like it applies to your PTA, but there are some circumstances where a PTA is doing fundraising to buy a really big purchase.
Like playground equipment,
Yeah, or those
shade structures.
shade structures, or one of those boards, that the electronic board,
Oh,
marquees or whatever they're
marquee,
called.
yeah. We've got two hands raised, Cheryl.
Yeah.
So one says these reports look like they're only accounting for checks that have been cashed,
Yes.
not just written. So are you not counting an expense as it's incurred only when the person cashes the check?
Well, okay, that's why I kind of I said this is an old example. I can bring up examples on our third district treasurer reports, but basically it's like a treasurer report should be like a reconciliation. So yes, you're right. Any outstanding checks that were written that haven't cleared your account yet, it would be nice if those are also listed on your treasurer report as outstanding payments or outstanding deposits, even, because you're reporting for the bank period that just closed. So we're in September now. You should have your August bank statements. So you should be reporting on August transactions. So if things have happened in September, like you've made deposits in September, those will be outstanding deposits. So you'd want outstanding checks and outstanding deposits also to be reported upon as well. So yes, you are right. Ideally, that would be an even better treasury report if you reported outstanding transactions. Yes, good call.
And Amanda, did you still have a question?
Yeah, I have a savings account question. And
Okay.
so, okay, this is going to sound silly, but like PTA was kind of dumped on me. I really have no idea what I'm doing. So that's why I'm sitting in these meetings. But we have a savings account, but I've never even touched the money in it because I didn't know if we had to have it for some reason or not. Like, so any of the money I base that we have is just what's off of our checking account. And there's like, I mean, there's money in there, but I didn't know if I didn't want to be the one to chip away at it because the lady before me never used it and she didn't really explain anything. She moved out of state and kind of left me hanging. So
you don't know if there's any vote ever taken that you're doing a fundraiser to buy something big
you
for
might
the
have to
school.
go back. You might have to go back and look in some minutes to see if there was, if you can find out the year that the savings account was started, go back and see if you can look in those minutes to see why it was started.
Okay.
And then
and even as far as like our records go, there are like I have records in the years that I've done it and the couple years of the lady before me. So I mean, I have less than 10 years for sure.
Don't worry about it. If Do you mind me asking how much you have in your savings?
There's like $6,000 in there,
Okay, well,
which is huge for us because I only have like $2,000 in our checking account.
yeah.
Yeah.
So ask your admin maybe if they have a wish list and see what you can do with that.
Okay,
6,000.
cool.
Yeah, if there, I mean, if the checking account was, or I'm sorry, if the savings account was opened, 10 years ago, whatever the reason that it was opened, if that purchase hasn't been made yet, because theoretically,
safe.
theoretically, as each year passes, your membership should vote to continue raising money for whatever that big purchase is, because the rule is 1 year's board cannot encumber the next year's board with their with their they can't make promises like next year the next board is they're gonna buy this thing for you. You can't do that, but there is a mechanism where you can do voting every year to like renew you have to keep voting on it every year. Like, do we still want to be raising money for this big
Shades.
purchase? And
Perfect,
so if the
thank
account
you.
was open 10 years ago, probably all those parents they've already moved through your school and they're long gone. So then maybe the reason for that purchase is also no longer
Pertinent.
needed. So
Okay. I think that's it for now, Cheryl.
okay. So the
Hi.
oh, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. This is Gabe Taylor. I had a similar question. Our board also has a fairly substantial savings account that I've been told very clearly is we just don't touch it.
There
What?
has
Which
to
seems
be
a little
reason.
strange. There is no reason as far as I can tell. So I'm an incoming treasurer. I've been doing this for a couple of days now, and I'm just trying to figure out what to do. And so I'm picking up as much as I can from the previous treasurer. We have a quite substantial savings account. It's smaller than our checking account, but it's quite substantial. And I've simply been told that we just don't touch it, which seems quite silly to me. And that was why I asked my question. I mean,
Sure.
and Cheryl, thank you so much. The explanations there you presented made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That the savings account could be a set aside for a specific purpose.
Yes.
My understanding in our situation is that that's not the case. It's just
as a nonprofit organization, you shouldn't be having money just sitting there.
You don't have rainy day funds.
Yeah, that's not appropriate for a nonprofit to operate that way.
yeah. I'll follow up with our bylaws and check to see if we have any sort of contingency specifying the savings account. But it really seems like it should be. I don't see a purpose for a savings account in this context.
Yeah, if you don't have if there's no large purchase intended for it, then that you cannot just have a savings account, just have a savings account, and that's not, because the money was raised or
By the children for
by
the children.
by your families, or maybe it was a donation from who knows where the money came from. I mean, if it was a donation from a company or something, usually companies make a donation for a specific project and they would want the money spent on that project.
Agreed. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. All right. So we have an Attorney General form. There's two of them now. There are RF1 and the CTTR1, and it requires a little bit of more detailed reporting. And then we're going to go, like I said, we're going to go into how to fill out these forms at the tax workshop next month. But as treasurers, it would be helpful when it comes time to fill out these forms, if you're tracking
Certain things.
a little closer. So particularly for the CT chair one, because it's very detailed. And things like total of cash contributions. So you want to keep track of things like gift cards that are donated, or the value of gift cards that are donated, and the value of gift certificates that are donated, meaning donated for raffle prizes or donated so your PTA can go buy stuff for the school, or whatever the purpose that those gift cards or gift certificates were donated for, and as well as cash donations. There should be a log. So whatever software you want to use to log that in, or piece of paper or a notebook or whatever, however you want to track it, have it just keep a track of it, so it'll make the filling out the TR1 a lot easier. Also,
And
non-cash. Oh, good.
And faster.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
don't have to go back and research it all.
All right. Non-cash contributions also have to be reported now. So,
if I donate water to your jogathon, you're
right.
going to have to try and come up with a value on how much the water that I am donating cost.
And it's fair market value. So if you go to your local grocery store and a case of water costs $5, and that's what you put down. I mean, it's whatever the market value that if the person that donated it doesn't give you a value, then you can just research whatever value you can get for at the grocery store, or Costco, or whatever. Also, auction or gift or raffle gift baskets. If you're having an auction, a silent auction or a raffle, and somebody donates a gift basket to you, a company or an individual, get the value of that basket, because you have to report that. School supplies, PPEs, cleaning supplies, food items. If somebody donates 3 dozen donuts or something, or whatever, I just get the value of it and log that as well, because that has to be reported. Your program income, which is income from events that are not advertised as a fundraiser, such as movie nights. Now, you cannot, if you have a movie night, you technically cannot charge admission to the movie, because that's the rule of the movie license, is that you cannot charge admission to watch the movie. However, you can make money by maybe offering a concession stand, like what you would have at a movie theater, where you can buy popcorn and hot dogs and everything else. So you can make money from a concession stand. But you need to keep track of that money, because that's program income, and it's reported as program income on the TR1 form. Dances, family nights, spiritware, yearbook sales, anything like that. Special event income, your gross income from activities that are listed as fundraisers, such as auctions, raffles, spaghetti dinner nights, whatever, fundraisers that you do. And then other revenues, such as grants and scholarships, you have to keep track of that. If you write a Home Depot grant because you want to start a garden at your school, and Home Depot gives you $1,000, then you need to list that. And that would also help with your you're wondering, why are we having this money in our savings account? Maybe Home Depot gave you a $6,000 grant or $5,000 grant years ago to start a garden. Who knows? You just have to research the paperwork. But if you have a log that shows that you got this grant and what it's for, then that'll help you be able to figure out why you have all this money in your bank.
Yeah. Cheryl?
Yeah.
Gabe asks, does that include the services of value, like your volunteers?
No,
No.
that's tracked separately. You would think that because volunteers are assets, 100%. But they are not assets in the terms of the Attorney General report.
Monetary.
Yeah. But very good question. Okay, where happened my cursor again? There it is.
So the thing to remember here on the CTTR1 form, you only have to prepare it if you earn less than 50,000 a year and file a 990N or easy, I'm not sorry.
No,
N-
no, in only.
N only. If you have, if you file the 990 easy or other, you don't have to file the CTTR1, but most of you are going to be filling that out. Don't stress over it.
Yeah.
We'll go over it in the tax prep workshop. And if you need help, I have examples and annotated versions, and they're not out to get you. They just want their pound of flesh because we don't pay taxes.
Right.
And what's the time period that those forms cover? It's your fiscal year. So these forms will cover July 1 through June 30th, and they will be due November 15th of this year.
Right. So this year's form that's due November 15, 2022, you're reporting on last year's financials. So July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022.
Yeah.
Because that year is closed, it's finished. And so the books are closed and you can report on that. You're always a year behind, just like in your personal income taxes. You're always filing for last year. So you're always filing for the previous year that ended. So, because there's closure to it. All right, and reconcile the 5-minute audit, otherwise known as checkbook balancing. It's a little bit more than checkbook balancing because you have to balance the checkbook, but you're also making sure that there's 2 signatures on every check, that the payee and the amount and the date match what's on the treasurer report, and that the purpose of the payment is in the memo section of the check. And you should be getting, most banks nowadays have images of the checks that cleared, like on the back page of your bank statement, or maybe they give you scan copies with your bank statement, or different banks do it different ways. You should have online access to your banking account, so you can download your statements easier. If you get your statements in the mail, they should be mailed to the school and not to your home address. And then look at the deposits and make sure that the dates and amounts match the treasury report and that the deposits have been timely. You don't want to have like, $10,000 of cash sitting in your house for a month. No, I would be very uncomfortable with that personally. But if you did a fundraiser and the bank is closed when the fundraiser is over, which is the case because most fundraisers happen in the evening, if it's a family night or something, they can get it in the bank the next day. And there are ways to secure the money so that nothing gets messed up. Your treasurer should be there to count money. There's a form, and we'll be going into all the forms here in a second. So there's a process to secure the money until you can get it into the bank. And then and assure that no online payments or withdrawals have been made using an ATM or debit card, and no cash withdrawals have been made. Now, cash withdrawals, I think that's talking about cash withdrawals to an ATM machine. You can get cash withdrawals from the bank because sometimes you need petty cash at your events. You can make change, so you have to be able to get cash from your bank account so you can make change at your events.
So
Um,
Cheryl,
Yeah,
Beth is asking, no debit card transactions for PTA expenses at all? Your PTA should not have a debit card. Really,
Truly.
We do, and we use it like if we're putting on an event and someone has to run to Costco to get something for the event. We have a card that we use.
There's a specific way, yeah, you don't use those because you don't have the 2 signatures required. There's a specific way you have to be able to use that by authorizing it and getting those 2 signatures beforehand.
So if we're like mid-event and something has to be purchased,
Somebody has to put it on their personal.
And get reimbursed.
oh boy, okay.
Yeah. Gabe says the alternative is for the officer to make the purchase and then be reimbursed. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, but you're part of the transparency that you are going for is negated by having a debit card.
yeah, and I know, our society seems to be moving away from, cash and using, ATM and debit cards seem to be the payment form that's most preferred in retail stores and so forth. Maybe, one day PTA will catch up with this, this technology and develop a way that you can use a debit card or an ATM or a debit card and still be transparent. But right now it is really, really discouraged.
Another
Well,
question.
from an auditor's, because I'm an actual auditor for career, from my perspective, it's that you've created and have an approved budget for each event. So that's one set of approvals. You have the period at the monthly review of the detailed expenses that get reviewed and approved at the PTA meeting. So that's another set of approvals. You have a separate auditor reviewing all these things and on top of the treasurer. So that's 3 layers of approval.
Right, but you haven't had approval for that sudden expense mid-event unless you have a
Well, if it falls
emergency meeting and during the middle of your event.
it's been approved via, we have $500 to spend on this event in total. And we're within that budget.
You almost have to and just like before your event starts, like maybe have a vote at your board meeting authorizing certain people that you think if something does come up that Susie Sunflower or Joe Blow or Bob Brown will need to run to Costco or the grocery store or whatever to go buy something urgently. You almost have to like you could vote on it at your board meeting and say, should something come up, have a motion like, should something come up where an emergency need arises, we authorize Joe Blow, Susie Sunflower, and Bob Brown.
I'll give you an actual example of one that we had recently. Is we had to put a deposit down on a outdoor movie projector, and the company required that it be electronically paid for through their website. So the person that was the one who found the vendor sent it to the president for approval, who sent it to me as the treasurer to use the ATM card to put the deposit down. That will then get reviewed at the monthly board meeting when it's a line item on the reconciliation to the bank statement.
Okay, I will tell you this, there is a form in the toolkit on the capta.org website, it's called authorization to purchase on the internet.
Yep.
And that is where you get, that's where the 2 signatures, that's where you can capture the 2 signatures that you would normally get on a check, because there's a place for the president and the treasurer to sign off on. So if you download, if things like, because I know there are vendors that only accept electronic payment, they don't accept checks, they don't accept cash. There's just no way to do business with that company except with the debit card or with a debit card or credit card.
Yeah.
So there's
it's
a form in the toolkit that you can download where you can capture all that voting and the signatures on it.
You're just trying to stay as transparent as possible. Now, Cheryl, we have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
First, Amanda asked, what about Venmo or PayPal? Venmo, I know, is a no-no
Yeah.
because
Yeah, Venmo is absolutely no. In fact, Venmo has even said don't use us. It's very explicit on their website. Venmo it's meant to be peer-to-peer, just like to, pay
it's not a
for.
company.
Yeah,
It's
it's not meant to be for business, and nonprofits like PTAs are considered a business.
Yeah. But she asked, what about PayPal? Yes, you can use
Yes, you could use
PayPal.
PayPal.
And then Gabe has his hand up. Go ahead, Gabe.
Hi, thanks. I think an important consideration here, and I really appreciate this conversation because it's really solidified some of my understanding of what the bureaucracy in place is for. The intent here is to slow down the movement of money to ensure we do not have a misappropriation of funds.
That's absolutely correct.
We have a revolving board of people in charge, and we need to make sure that there are 2 signatures or more involved in any expenditure, because if there is one person who is able to expend funds without confirmation, they can take all the money and there's no recourse for the PTA. Right. So if somebody has a ATM card, they can take all the money and nobody can do anything about it. They can't get it back other than through expensive legal procedures. So the intent here is to slow that down as much as possible so that that does not happen. And it totally makes sense to me. I mean, the individual officers in the example that was given here of a movie projector or whatever, somebody needs to make that funds who's comfortable saying that they are confident they can get reimbursed for it and it's for good reason and whatnot. And I think in any functional organization that would happen. Right. But yeah, the intent here is to slow things down.
Yes, and we have had so many. It would turn your stomach how many instances of embezzlement have happened in PTA. It's frightening. I mean, you would think what parent would steal from their kids, but they do, and
it happens.
It's very stomach turning, but it does happen, and that's what you have insurance for. But even that process is it's a long process, and maybe you'll get part of your money back, and there's a deductible, and so yeah, you just want to avoid all that.
We're just trying to tell you best practices.
Right.
Best practices to not have an ATM card. Now, the bank doesn't care. The bank will give you an ATM card. You should tear it up and say, no, thank you. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm convinced as well, based on this conversation and previous conversations I've had over just the past couple of weeks.
Yeah. There is a method that you can do the previously, you can have somebody charge something, but there is a method that you do it.
Right. And then there's also, you can cash advance people too. Yep. There's a cash advance form. If you really want to avoid using the debit card, which we really recommend that. And that we know a lot of people don't have a lot of money, just sitting around their bank accounts to pay for stuff and then wait to be reimbursed. So there's a cash advance form as well in the CAPTA toolkit. So you can advance somebody the money to go out and use their own debit card to buy it, and the money will already be in their account from the PTA. But if there's any difference, like then you have to get the money, the overage back, and sometimes that can be a hassle too. If you give somebody $500 to go buy something and the item only costs, $395, then you have to wait, and that person buys the $395, $395 thing, then you have to wait for them to give you the difference between the 500 and $395 back. That could be a problem too. So there's pros and cons everywhere.
Yeah.
You just have to know your officers and know their situations and make the best choice for you that will also protect the assets of your PTA.
Yeah. We're just talking mostly best practices, Beth, and you have to do what you think is right for your PTA. But thank you for your input.
Yeah.
And now Cheryl can go ahead with her 5-minute audit.
Okay. Well, I think we've actually covered this slide. I think I finished this slide. And I
Yes.
think step 3 is where we got talking about the use of the debit
The
card.
debit card.
Yeah. And then like I said, do your bank reconciliation. And making the adjustments for checks that have not cleared and deposits not shown. That comes in like with your treasurer report where you put your outstanding deposits and checks that have not yet cleared. And then if necessary, contact the treasurer. Now the treasurer can do this or the auditor can do this 5-minute audit. If there's any errors, like, hey, this is not looking right, and then that gives you the chance to get the problem addressed immediately and not wait until the association meeting or when you're having your actual audit and finding out, things are not matching. What's going on? So if you do this on a monthly basis, then you can correct errors as they come along, and then it doesn't become a bigger problem later on. Okay. And where did my cursor go again? Gosh, this is annoying when my cursor disappears. Okay. I think I want to. Okay. Okay, yeah. All right. So there are a couple more checks and balances, and once again, these are all things that protect you, the officers, the incoming officers, the outgoing officers, the current officers. These are all designed to protect you. So things don't get out of whack and the finger gets pointed at you or pointed at the previous person. PTA requires that all PTA checks be signed by 2 authorized check signers. The bank doesn't care if there's 2 signatures on the check. All they want to see is 1 signature on the check. But PTA requires 2, and that's once again to protect, like the gentleman said earlier, protect somebody from running away with all the money. Monthly bank statements are to be reviewed by a non-check signer and signed or initialed to ensure that questionable transactions like bank errors or unexpected bank fees or unusual transactions are identified and addressed. Maybe your bank account was hacked. I mean, that's happened in the 3rd district, I think, twice. We had somebody buy $500 on Amazon. It's like, okay, we didn't buy anything on Amazon, and certainly not $500 worth of stuff from Amazon. So we had to file a claim with our bank to get the money back. So things like that. It's just a second pair of eyes. Your treasurer should also be looking at the bank statement when they do the reconciliation. But a second pair of eyes, a fresh set of eyes, it's not looking at numbers all day. It's good to have that objective set of eyes looking over the bank statements as well to make sure that nothing is missed. And audits must be performed twice a year. And anytime there's a change of check signer. This is required by our insurance. So if you find yourself in need of filing a claim and these audits have not been performed, you run the risk of having your claim denied. And we don't want to go there. So make sure you get your audits done. Here's an example of an annual financial report. At the end of the year, this is like a summary of all, where all your income came from and where all your expenses went out to. And this one form is like, it's like the Bible or the religious document of filling out that you go to for filling out your taxes, and that CTTR1 form and your RF1 form. If you have this annual financial report, if you have in a summary of your year end for the previous year, that will make everything so incredibly simple to do. Because otherwise you have to go through all your records monthly and get a calculator and add everything up, and it just becomes a big hassle. So if you have this one document, that will save your life.
And it's due in May.
Yeah. The annual financial report?
Yeah.
Why would it be due in May? The year doesn't
Yeah.
end until June.
Oh, well, sorry.
After,
Okay, so when is it due?
but it's that it what do you say due? Like due to us or?
Yeah, so you're going to submit it to third district. And so
Yeah,
you're going to do it after June 30th?
Yeah. So probably sometime July or August at the latest.
Okay.
Because you have to wait for the fiscal year to close so you can have an annual financial report.
Okay.
If you
got
do
it.
it in May, then you're missing a month.
And your point?
Well, I mean, a lot of schools end in May, so there's really a lot of transactions that occur in June, but there may be some residual, like checks look clear or
Yeah,
things like that.
I get it. Can you tell I'm not a treasurer? Yes.
All right, so this is a payment authorization form. This should be attached to every receipt or invoice or a request for reimbursement. Basically shows that the expense was voted upon and when it was voted upon and the details of what the expense is about, what it's for, who's being reimbursed or paid. It's basically a summary of all of that transaction. So this form should be stapled to every receipt, invoice, everything that you got. Yes, Gabriel.
I have a bunch of questions about this form.
Sure.
So there are 4 signatures on this form and only 2 dates listed. Above the line there, the implication is that the signature of the VP or chairman for program events must approve the expenditure that the payee is requesting prior to the PTA approving the expenditure of those funds. So I guess I have like at least 3, maybe 4 questions. And then the third question is that does the president need to sign every single one of these forms? That's a problem for our PTA. We have a lot of these forms and the president is very busy. Can the president delegate that to the treasurer, or is that potentially something that we have to put into our bylaws? Honestly, so like I said, I'm just coming in, and our PTA has for a while now just been kind of skipping large sections of this form because it's been 2 signatures and done, which is make me nervous.
Yeah. Well, the person requesting the payment or reimbursement,
which is frequently a teacher or a docent,
right? Or even a parent that buys something that the PTA, oh yeah, I can go out and buy that for you, and I can wait to be reimbursed. So yeah, that would be the first signature right under where it says refund the PTA. Signature VP. Well, if you don't have a VP of programs or events,
So if a teacher submits this form to claim reimbursement for some materials purchased for a garden program, let's say.
right.
They purchased $50 worth of compost for their garden. They submit this form. So the VP, the chairman of the program or event, is the payee in that context, because that's the
Right.
that's the docent. So it'd be two signatures from the same person.
No.
Like I said,
Yeah.
I've probably got 4 or 5, maybe 6 or 8
Yeah.
questions about
No.
this form. I'd like to
No.
fill it out to its completion. I certainly see the intent here. I'm just a little confused by the format, and I
Right.
would
Well,
change it
I
if I
think the
could.
important thing is it's not necessarily the most important signatures are the secretary's signature, because the secretary has to validate that that expense is voted upon in the minutes.
Okay, that's the encumbrance of the funds. Got it.
Yeah. So that's a vital approval to get. And the signature of the person that's submitting the request, that's a vital. But as far as like now your president is ultimately ultimately responsible for everything that goes on your PTA. So that's why the president's signature is specifically called out in here. But if you want to put in your standing rules that your vice president,
Because we have a financial secretary and a treasurer, both who are paying attention to these details here.
yeah.
And I guess my question is, can the president delegate that authority, at least for months at a time, to
Yeah.
someone?
I don't see why not, as long as there's maybe
Especially given, go ahead.
The other thing that happened when I was at a unit, Gabe, is that the treasurer would come with the whole pile of warrants that needed to be signed that month, that had been written during that month. And the secretary and the president would spend their time during that meeting signing their name before or after.
Okay.
Just the way it is.
Instead of doing them onesie twosie,
Yeah.
At your board meeting,
Yeah.
your treasurer just bring them all, and then
Yeah.
they'd all be signed all at the same time.
And appropriate receipts and documentation would be attached to each one.
Right.
Exactly.
For either detailed or cursory review as deemed necessary.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, you could put in your standing rules that the president has, and I think that kind of goes without saying, but because the vice president can act if the president is unavailable, so that kind of defaults to it could be the president signs it or the VP.
Yeah, I would
You just need a leader outside of your treasurer
financials.
Yeah.
Financial people.
Yeah.
I'm
Somebody that's willing to
comfortable.
take responsibility for it.
I'm quite comfortable with what you're presenting. It's just a change from what our PTA has done in the past. And as a new person in the fold, I am a little nervous. But I feel as the treasurer, if I can present the documentation in clear enough format to the president and the secretary, then they will see the sense in that and review it and sign their names.
They won't shoot the messenger.
Yeah.
I sure hope not. They're very nice people.
Okay. And if they have any questions, they can contact me, and I can walk through the process with them too.
We have 10 minutes, Cheryl.
All right, 10 minutes. Let's see. Okay, here's our cash verification form. So if you have an event like a dance or something where there's a lot of cash transactions at the end of the event, you sit and you count all the money. And count all the coinage, all the dollars, all the checks are written, and you itemize everything on this form. And I recommend that if you've got more than one thing going on at the same time, use one form per activity. So if you've got a dance and you've got a membership drive, even though it's got a membership dues section on here, I recommend counting the memberships and using a separate form for it. And then when you make your deposit, and you get the deposit receipt from the bank, you know, when the teller gives you the receipt, then staple the receipt to this form, and it should, so the dollar amounts will match, so everything looks like it matches. And then you can, when you give it, then when you go to do your treasury report, all these forms are separated, so you can, when you do your treasury report, you can say, okay, this money came from a membership drive, so that goes on the membership income line, and this money came from a dance, and that's a fundraiser, so that goes on the dance or the fundraiser income line. And it just makes it easier for you to prepare your treasury report. And then once again, I don't know why there's 4 signatures at the bottom of this form. It perplexes me to this day. You only need 2 signatures. Somebody to count the money, and then somebody to verify that the count is correct that the first person made. I don't know why there's 4 signature lines. It's just, I just don't get it. Then your other remittances, so you have now if you're using Totem for your membership, you do not need to send us any Totem money, because the money, the membership that goes to Totem automatically is transferred to us. So we already have that money. You do not need to send us a check for that money. So people join your PTA via cash or check or other cash collection system like PayPal or anything else you have set up, we need a check for that. And you need to use this form when you're setting it in, so we can make sure that we apply your dues to your PTA, not another PTA accidentally. Workman's compensation.
Question.
Yeah,
So we've discussed potentially just having all new members sign up through Totem.
that's great. That's perfect.
Okay, thanks.
I mean, there may be people that can't afford
Object to
the dollar service fee. I wouldn't say we're not allowing it, but I mean, you can say we're strongly encouraging you to use Totem. But if somebody really can only pay cash, maybe they don't have a bank account. Maybe, you know, there's, you know, people have different situations. Maybe they only operate using cash. They don't have any way to pay for it online. Then you should allow them to join via paying cash. But you can strongly encourage people to use Totem only.
Okay, thanks.
Workman's compensation. Everybody should fill out this form, whether you hire people or not. If you don't hire anybody, you still have to fill out this form, and you just say, you just check the box, no one was paid. But you still have to submit this report regardless. This report is used, our AIM uses this to determine our insurance premium. It's one of the elements they look at when they are negotiating our insurance premium for the next year. So if there are missing reports, they might take that negatively and say, people might be hiding things from us. Well, we better jack up
raise
the
the rate.
insurance next year. So get this form turned in. Here's the link. The link to it is at the bottom here. It's an online form. It's really easy to fill out. Just fill in the information and submit, and you're done. Now, here's some common things that you may encounter. There's been so many disasters, natural disasters and everything, with all the fires, and people have compassionate hearts, and that is an amazing thing. But there are ways that PTA can help out and ways that they can't. And you cannot make, PTA cannot make a personal gift to a family or individual. It may not collect money or disperse funds for the benefit of a specific family or individual. You may not use your EIN number to establish a GoFundMe to benefit specific families or individual. Now, PTAs may participate in community relief efforts by making a donation to another 501c3. So a 501c3 can only make a donation to another 501c3, but you also have to make sure you get your members. Your members have voted on that and they're approved that. And yeah, that's the last bullet. PTA members must vote and approve all donations and must be given to legally recognized nonprofits. Okay, this
Amanda raised her hand.
okay, yes, Amanda.
Sorry, just about the donation question. So like, for example, we do a student store as like a behavior incentive program on our school.
Right.
And when COVID hit and everything was shut down, I couldn't do the student store anymore. So we took the things from that and donated to, like, we're a Title I school. So I reached out to our, like our school counselor, and families could sign up through her if they needed like some extra gift help like that. And we donated those things that would have been for our student store to those families. Is that kind of thing acceptable?
Ooh,
We're not giving them cash money. It's
Right,
items
right.
that were already purchased for a program that was going to be canceled for the rest of the year.
So these were students from your school it was given to?
Yes.
I think because you're giving them via the student store anyway, that this had there been no COVID and everything, those same students would have had the opportunity to get those things through the the behavior, earning the behavior incentives, to be able to get the privilege to shop at the student store, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay, cool.
I think it's on the gray area, but I think you're more on the positive side of the gray area than the negative side of the gray area.
Okay, I'll take it.
All right. Good question. Yeah, the alternative is, especially if it's stuff that like expires or goes bad, then you don't want to throw it away. You want it to at least get some good use, right?
You've got 3 minutes, Cheryl.
Okay. We've already talked about this. No Venmo. You can use PayPal, you can use Square, and Stripe is another one. Those are allowed. There's also things like CheddarUp and GiveButter.com. Those are two fundraiser websites that I think they actually partner with PayPal, so you can use those as well. But you cannot use Venmo. Here's the authorization to purchase. Oh, here's the form.
There it is.
Yeah. Oh, here's the authorization to purchase on the internet. This is the form that I was talking about earlier. And like Peggy and I said, this is the last resort way to pay and must be used judiciously. Commingling of funds. Many PTAs are asked if they will hold on to the money for a school club or something, because
they don't have a bank account.
They don't have their own bank account. They don't want to they don't want to mingle their money in with the school's money, because the school can freeze accounts
and it could take too long to get it back from them.
And so you cannot commingle money. Now, the only way you can do it is if that club, that school after school program or whatever, becomes like a committee of the PTA. So it has to be something that's PTA sponsored. But when that happens, then that club has to follow all the rules of PTA to get requests for reimbursements and get checks written and everything else. So they have to be willing to to accept the PTA financial procedures. They can't just say, we need money and willy-nilly, and you're giving them money whenever they need it. You have to understand there's a process.
When I was first starting out as a unit president, somebody told it to me that the easiest way I found to remember it, any money that goes into your PTA account becomes PTA money.
Yep. Now you can allocate it to a committee or to a program.
Yeah.
But it does belong to the PTA as soon as the money's turned over, yes. Gifts to school. If you buy something for the school, if you buy a shade structure, or you buy a laminating machine, or anything for the school, some school districts have their own form that you should be filling out, or you can use this form. But you should fill out this form to transfer liability, and also to make sure that that item stays with your school. If you do not fill out this form and you buy a laminating machine for your school and you don't fill out this form, that laminating machine can be moved to a different school because it becomes a property of the
School district.
school district as soon as you buy it for them, unless you have this agreement in place saying this thing is a gift to this specific school and it will stay at this specific school. And then the school district has to abide by that, and that item will always stay at that school. I am trying to get through it. Oh, I'm 1 minute over. We're almost done.
Yep.
Babysitting. Babysitting is allowed, and you can pay babysitters, but you have to fill the what you paid the babysitter on the workman's comp form. They have to be 2 unrelated adults, 18 years or older. But if the under 18-year-old person is a certified babysitter, then you can have a younger person. Coffee or other hot fluids have to be kept out of the room or area where the children are. And and I already said.
And they don't change diapers.
Yeah.
Amanda, do you have your hand up again, or is it something else? Is that okay?
Sorry, I forgot to get rid of it.
And PTA may charge parents a reasonable fee for babysitting services. Movies, if you're going to show movies, like have a movie night, you must have a a site license to show movies, especially like Disney movies and so forth. Disney actually did sue a PTA in Southern California for showing a movie without a license. It is shocking. I think they backed off on the lawsuit, but the fact that it was filed to begin with was amazing, but it does happen. Non-commercial policy. We want to always recognize and thank our donors, our businesses that donate. But you cannot encourage your parents to go shop at that business. You just say, thank you, XYZ company, for donating all those widgets to our harvest carnival. That's all you say. You cannot use any of these terminologies here.
Gabe raised his hand.
Yes.
We regularly have dine out nights where a local business will agree to donate a portion of their profits.
Right.
If we advertise that you go there and you purchase their food. Is that allowed?
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
allowed. Yeah, because that's a fundraiser. So yeah.
Great. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Good question. That's it. We're only a couple minutes over, but we had some really good questions. So
Yes, we did.
any other questions? Yes.
Just a quick thank you. Beth, Christina, Wendy, Amanda, everybody, great discussion. Thank you so much. I do this for a living, Zoom meetings and whatnot. I'm kind of a desk jockey, and this has been one of the most educational and valuable hours I've spent in a long time.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice.
I appreciate that feedback. All right, any other questions? And if you think of anything later on, it's like, oh, I just thought of a question. I always do that. As soon as I'm done with something, and like any questions, I'm like, oh no. And then like 5 minutes later, after everybody's gone, oh man, I forgot to ask this question.
Yeah.
There's my phone number. There's my email address. You can text me. You can call me. I sleep with my phone under my pillow. Actually, I don't sleep. So call me pretty much anytime, day or night. And I'm happy to answer your questions.
This recording will be posted probably sometime next week, Gabe. It depends on when our VP of Communications can get to all of this posting, because we've had one every night this week, and we have one tomorrow, and we have 2 on Saturday.
And they'll be converted to YouTube videos, so they will be YouTube links. So.
And Cheryl usually posts the handouts as well, the PowerPoint presentations.
All right. Well, I will stop the recording if there are no other questions.
Thank you.